I want to welcome you to the organization. Welcome to the Salem Chamber building. We've got our mayor here. We've got Commissioner Mordhorst here. So what a great showing. Great turnout by our board of directors. Thank you guys so much. Representative Diehl is on his way. He shot us a note. He was running just a little bit behind. So no fear. We're going to have that arriving any moment. So welcome everybody to the Salem Chamber. It's great to have you here. We have some great topics for you this morning. I see Rep. Diehl has joined us. Hey. Good morning. Great to have you here, Representative Diehl. It's really notable. We have a few past presidents here, both Kathy and John, and Mike Heron as well, and our board members here. Ted, Brandon, Ryan. We've got Todd Granado here. Rich, right there. Okay. That's incredible. Thank you for being here and showing your support. And really, they're here to listen as much as they are here to learn and the like. Our voice is really important in this community right now. And I want to thank all of you for being in the private sector. And if you're not in the private sector, but you're in this room, it means you really believe in the private sector. More and more businesses in this state are really facing some challenging times. And I just want to thank all of you for being strong during this. And we got to unite together and share this voice in a number of different formats. So thank you all for being willing to do that. We have an incredible slate today, and I want to recognize, it doesn't look like he's in the room, but Jameson Gideon for helping put this together. Dan Johnson, who films all of this for us and captures these images. If you see anything in the Salem Chamber, know that Dan is likely behind that in our visual and marketing. And then Jackie Roche, of course, from the membership side. If you have somebody who you know that could benefit from being in this organization, a very, very healthy place, I hope you get and connect with Jackie because we're really trying to build something special. We're pretty strong as we are. We've got a lot of members and a lot of businesses in this community call this place home. But we want more. We're kind of like a church. Come here and be part of something really special. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to introduce our panelists, and I will quickly introduce them one by one, and then we're actually going to start with Deputy Chief Aguilar. But if you would, to my immediate left is Salem Police Chief Debbie Aguilar. Next to Debbie is Lieutenant Lance Diede. And so we're going to hear from our Salem Police Department here in a moment. Immediately after that is Greg Astley with the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association. Of course, our incredible representative and voice for common sense, Representative Ed Diehl. And then finally, we're going to talk to Councilor Shane Matthews, who is also in the private sector with you as a local real estate agent. So let's get into a discussion about the Salem Safety and Livability Initiative. If you are following along at home, and I certainly hope you are, what is going on at our city council meetings and the conversations, our community is really at an interesting time where we need to look at what we value and what is common sense to make sure a community is strong. This organization very proudly stands behind law enforcement and our emergency services and what they deliver to not just our residents, but to the business community. And in that partnership, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Debra Aguilar, who is a Leadership Salem graduate, as well as Lieutenant Lance Diede. So the stage is yours.
Thank you. So I'm going to speak just really briefly, and then I'm going to actually turn it over to Lieutenant Diede for kind of the bulk of the presentation. But I wanted to first talk about our strategic plan. I vastly undercounted how many people are going to be here. So some of you may have a pamphlet on your desk. This is also available online on our city website. So if you're interested in really taking a deep dive, please feel free to take a look at it. So this is our new strategic plan, the second strategic plan that Salem Police has ever had. We're really proud of this plan. We just closed out our last plan This one builds, I think, on some of the good work that we did with our first plan, but just wasn't able to move the needle and we felt like the information in here was something that we realistically could take on and make a positive impact in this next 3 years. So the plan is a 3-year plan. The overarching goals are the same as they were in the old plan or the previous plan, with a slight difference of verbiage. So safety, legitimacy, and excellence were the 3 overarching goals of our previous plan. We had a lot of people ask us, what does legit mean? What are you trying to achieve with that? And we said, well, it's really just about trust, about building trust between the police department and the community. So this new plan, we just simplified it, and now it's safety, trust, and excellence. And so if you look through the plan, it really highlights some of our key work that we want to take on the next 3 years. One thing I will say is just because it's not in the plan doesn't mean that we're not going to do it. This isn't the only thing that we're going to do. It is just highlighting some of the areas that we're going to focus our time, energy, and budget on. So safety really covering the 2 big topics that we're concerned about, which are the Community Violence Reduction Initiative. So obviously community violence, gun violence, and deaths in the community, and then traffic safety. Last year we had a record high number of traffic fatalities, so we want to try to drive that number down by really focusing our resources on that. When you look at the trust section of the trust goal, really it's about our procedural justice and how we interact with each other within the department, as well as how we interact with the community. I will give a little plug. A big part of that trust goal is our procedural justice training program. And it's a training program where we bring police officers and community members together to learn the material. Our next class is going to be in April. I will actually send a link to Tom. And if anyone is interested, when I open up the registration and you're interested in attending, please, I would love to have you. It's free. I feed you lunch, and you get to hang out with a bunch of officers and learn some, I think, really valuable material.
Debbie, would you like us present? I mean, is it in a perfect world, do you have the business community present for that? Because we will rally our members to be there.
Perfect.
But be careful if you open the door, we may bring that.
Well, yeah, I do have a limited space.
How do you let us know how many spots you want, and we'll make sure that we're present, correct? Business community, we will be there.
Perfect. That's wonderful. I like to hear that. I'm always trying to get community members involved. And then our last goal of excellence really is about internally, how do we recruit and hire the people that represent our community, the highest quality and caliber of recruits, as well as how do we retain them? And then how do we keep them both physically and mentally healthy while they're here at our department? And then also, how do we grow our department in our leadership? So how do we train people so that we have people who want to rise through the ranks? So that's just a really quick overview. The chief was at City Council, I want to say either last council or the council before, and gave an overview of this. So if you're interested in listening to his presentation, you can go back and look on YouTube, and it's on there. That was my strategic plan. I know we'll have time for questions later if you have specific questions about it. So our homeless services team, we began the team in 2022, and at that time I was lieutenant. I was actually in our community engagement section. We don't have that section anymore, but at that time I was the lieutenant over our community engagement section, and the city came up with this great idea to have a better way of responding to the homeless crisis. At that time, we really didn't have a coordinated and organized effort. It was the police department was doing stuff, the public works was doing stuff, and we weren't really meeting on a regular basis, and we didn't have a coordinated effort. So the decision was, we really need to, as a city, come together and respond as a team. So that meant that we started having coordinated meetings. We still have those meetings once a week where all of our city departments get together and talk about areas of concern. We had a coordinated way in which people can respond or notify us of camps they find. So before, we were having people call us on the phone, send emails, and it wasn't a really effective and efficient way of getting that information. So now we encourage people go onto the city website, lodge a complaint, and then that complaint comes to the team and we can talk about how we're going to respond to those complaints. And then we had a more coordinated effort in that we had dedicated officers that their sole job, and that was our HST officers, their sole job was to go out and respond to those complaints, as well as locate individuals in camps on their own, start making contact with the individuals, start making a relationship, building trust with those individuals, trying to connect them with service providers. And then ultimately, the goal was that that camp was going to be cleaned and ideally find those folks a different location, ideally, hopefully in a shelter. Obviously, that isn't always the case. So when I promoted to deputy chief, Lieutenant Diede came in and he took over HST, and now he has the, I think, honor of leading those two folks, as well as growing our team, as we're here to talk about, because as you all hopefully know, we just were provided two additional officers. So we'll have a team of 4 officers and 1 sergeant to be able to, I think, better respond to the homeless crisis. So I will have Lance give a little presentation on it.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lance Diede. I appreciate you guys having me here today. I've been a Salem police officer for going on 19 years. And so I grew up in this community. I have a passion for this community. And so, and I have a passion for what I do with the police department. I'm currently a lieutenant with our special operations section. That does not mean I'm like a Navy SEAL, but it just encompasses our kind of our homeless services team, our strategic investigations unit, which is kind of a gun violence reduction, gang violence, drug type unit. And then some of our detectives that are assigned to some of our federal partners for drug enforcement administration type stuff. And so, and then I'm also in charge of kind of a data-led or data-driven effort to get officers into certain sections of the city based off of the data we receive. And I'll talk a little bit about that today. Homeless services team, you'll hear me refer to it as HST. So HST, as the deputy chief has mentioned, has been around for about 3 years. We currently have 2 officers and a sergeant that are assigned to that team, and they work in collaboration with our SOS team, which is the Salem Outreach Services team for the city. So, and I'll explain what that means. But these 2 officers, eventually going to be 4 officers, as the deputy chief mentioned, they're routinely out there in the field. They're in camps. They're contacting homeless individuals every day. The primary goal of this team is to collaborate with our service providers and to connect these people with services with the eventual goal of getting them off the street into services and stabilize these folks. We work with approximately 40 service providers. Once a month, we meet with these service providers and we collaborate and communicate and coordinate on how we can best facilitate the mission of the team, right? So the mission is essentially, these officers know generally these people by first name. We get out in there in the community. We talk to them about their addictions, about mental health, about the way in which we can connect them and get them off the streets into services. And in large part, it's very successful. And so recently, you've heard a lot of communication, public communication about the expansion of this team. And so today we are interviewing multiple officers who are interested in getting into this team to expand it from 2 officers to 4 with a sergeant. So we'll have 5 dedicated officers to HST working on this mission. So we hope to get that. So right now we're on a 4-day coverage, and we hope to expand that. We will expand that to a 7-day coverage starting as early as 2 weeks from now. And so officers will be in the field contacting individuals, posting camps, and then in collaboration with the SOS team, if we need to clean up camps, clean up camps. Some of our service providers that we work with Church of the Park, Arches, UGM, Ideal Options, Safe Sleep, Hope. There's numerous service providers, but those are just a few several to name a few. The NAV Center, Arches on 22nd Street. And then so just kind of the daily operations of this team. So every Monday morning, this team meets with myself and several people within the city, including our SOS providers, and we go over the online reporting system to report homeless camps. And so we receive a lot of reports from an online reporting system, yoursalempd.com. You can log into there and you can report a camp. And that comes to us. And then every Monday morning, we review that and we assign our officers to go out and deal with specific camps in the community or contact people to kind of work on stuff I talked about. It's a way for us to gather information. We review email, text messages, voicemails from patrol officers, and we conduct random field checks and continuous problem areas that we know are areas that we need to continuously address, including the downtown core, West Salem, Northeast Salem, the entire community. Our team provides services on both a public and private property venues. So 81% of our services generally are conducted on public property. The other 20% is on private property. We have these officers post in a camp if they can't be there, and they'll post it for 72 hours. We'll go back 72 hours later in collaboration with SOS, and then we'll clean the camp with the hope that we got that person into services. That doesn't always work that way, but we will always make contact. Every contact is an opportunity. I love that to say that, because every time a Salem police officer comes in contact with someone in the community, an unsheltered person, it's a way in which we can offer those services in collaboration with our service partners and get them help. So talk a little bit about that. So we have City of Salem public property, we have private property in the community, and then we have state property. Okay, so Salem Police only deals with City of Salem property and private property when citizens call in. Okay, we have a whole bunch of state property here that's managed by ODOT. And currently ODOT does come through. They do work on camps in the area. You'll see some of those camps along I-5 and kind of in that general area. There's some downtown, some in West Salem. And we get a lot of online communication to us. Hey, this camp is here. We do collaborate and communicate with our state partners and let them know of the information we're receiving. We forward that on to them, but it's the state's responsibility to manage those ODOT properties, and they're on a different timeline and schedule. And so sometimes you'll see those camps and the complaints will be coming in and like, what's going on? We are working with our state partners. They're just kind of on a slower schedule because they have a whole state to manage. So I wanted to go over, that's kind of the HST responsibility. I want to talk about what's called ICAP, and it's Intelligence, Communication, and Planning. And so we have a Sergeant Trevor Morrison. Some of you guys have probably met him. What his efforts are right now is he is meeting with business owners, he's meeting with stakeholders, he's meeting with citizens in the community, and he's collaborating with those partners on the data we're receiving about crime occurring in the city. Okay, so right now we have what's called a focused enforcement area with ICAP, for that intelligence, communication, and planning in the downtown core, and then also in the Northeast Salem area, because the data is showing that the crime that everyone reports to us warrants us having a focused enforcement of officers in those areas. And so Sergeant Morrison leads an effort of overtime officers through salary savings. We are able to offer overtime to our officers. So it's not consistent all the time, but it's officers who want to work overtime will kind of work in those areas I just mentioned, and they'll contact individuals, they'll enforce the law, they'll contact business owners, they'll work to listen and hear and give everyone a voice and want to get into that area and solve the problem. And so we have that focused enforcement going on now. What I'll speak to that is, if you witness criminal behavior, you see things that you want to report, you can go to our online reporting system, which is at that same yoursalempd.com. You can call the non-emergency line, or if it's you call 911, but report those crimes to us so we can look at that data and actually know that there's problems in that area and assign our resources to that, which is part of what that is. So real quick, I wanted to go over some stats for HST and the homeless services team. So just in 2025 to date, those 2 officers have contacted or have gone to 886 sites within the community. They've spent 583 hours in these sites. They've contacted 2,100 people, and 328 of those were referred for services. Okay, meaning we referred them. Doesn't mean they necessarily went, but their communication happened. They accepted it, and we referred them to services. So that is HST. Now, when we expand this team, right? So we're going to have 2 additional 7-day coverage. We're going to increase those statistics that I just spoke about. So next year, a year from now, if we're invited back to speak with you fine folks, we'll be able to kind of actually show data compared to what we're seeing today, what we're seeing a year from now when we expand this team essentially by 2. Okay. Anything, Deputy Chief? Okay, that's it.
I know we're gonna wait on questions until the end, right? Or
We're actually gonna do them right as we go through our speakers.
that's
So,
perfect. Okay,
That's
good.
great.
I'm sure there's
Lieutenant
questions.
Diede and Deputy Chief Aguilar, thank you so much. There's something that is really important, and we got to kind of own this. You're probably with me a couple years ago when you report crime and nobody comes due to resources. What do we stop doing? We stopped reporting. Okay, we have got to be reporting, and it's so simple to do now. You got a QR code to do it, to link in. This is non-911 crime. Of course, we need you to call 911, of course, if you're in danger. But we as a business community kind of learned that sometimes nobody's coming. So we stopped reporting. And now those who really sometimes are on that fringe edge of, hey, we're not in support of law enforcement. Oh, crime's down. Where is crime down in this city? For those of you, and we have people from all over this city regionally here. Crime is not down, and we need to do our part to report this. So I don't want that to be lost. Thank you, Lieutenant Diede, for reminding us of that. Let's go to questions from the audience. Yes, Ed.
But just quickly, how does the state law impact what you are able to do in response to the homeless situation? How will it change if the repeal of that law is successful? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it really doesn't affect us. State law requires that we provide 3 days notice between posting a camp and cleaning a camp. But we also really need that time. We oftentimes don't have the capability, especially large camps where there's going to be a lot of coordination needed. We often can't post and remove within 24 to 48 hours. So we ourselves it probably wouldn't change very much if the law were to be repealed as far as the posting. We also, one of the challenges that we face is that there's living in a public space, but there's also the crimes that go with potentially living in the space. So whether it's littering, whether it's assaults, those types of things. Generally, living in a public space is regulated by the city, which means that a violation of living in a public space is going to be a city misdemeanor. And for all you, I know that doesn't mean much, but for law enforcement, it means a lot, because what that means is a city misdemeanor it's the city attorney and our city court handles that charge, which means that unless the county jail will accept a city misdemeanor charge, we could arrest somebody on a city charge, but that means we would be able to just give them a citation. We wouldn't actually physically be able to take them to jail. Now, Polk County is a little different. Polk County generally will accept more people. So there is a minor difference. So when you talk about what will it change, we can always arrest somebody on a state crime. So if they assault someone, harass someone, menace someone with a firearm, that we can always arrest someone. But if you're just talking about how can we take someone on a city charge of living in a public space, I don't know if there's a way, unless we work with our counties, if there would be a way to change that just because the law is repealed. Now, it doesn't mean that there isn't something new that couldn't come up. Maybe if the state were to provide some kind of option for us, that might be an alternative. But I guess it's a long answer to say, I don't know if that repeal would change very much how we would do business unless there were some other changes that come in the criminal justice system.
Alan?
What was that? I'm saying again.
YourSalemPD.com.
Additional questions? Deb?
Let's just pretend like you own 5.5 acres downtown here, and you invite somebody out of state to come in. Property, and if they drive through here, go particularly down Front Street, turn around, give you a call, and says, hey, we decided verbally, we're not gonna even consider giving you any opportunity to rent our property out of town because we don't like what we saw. So I mean, where do we get to, where, I go to business quite a bit, I go to McMinnville quite a bit. You don't have any of the problems that we have here, and of course, we always get that feedback. I mean, that's like somebody ate my homework type of thing. So what are we gonna do with that?
Yeah, so I will say, I know the chief spoke to this at city council. Solving the homeless crisis is not going to be on the police department. It is going to be a wider community and state solution that's going to bring that. What I will say is, for us, it is extremely frustrating when we see these camps and we find somebody who actually wants to accept services. Now, there are people that do not want to accept services. And those people, all we can do is try to mitigate the health and safety of that camp, clean it, and then the person's going to have to move on. But for the people that really want those services, but there's no shelter available for them, that's really frustrating for us. So if you really want to make impact, I mean, we have to have some place to take these individuals. We have to have services that we can provide to them that's going to solve whatever their issue is that's creating that homelessness situation. I mean, so for us, we're as equally as frustrated. I'll tell you that for shelters, one of the biggest barriers that we find is an individual who's disabled, who maybe they need some minor medical supervision. No shelter will accept somebody because most of them don't have a CNA or some kind of medical professional on staff. So our only option is to try to work with like elder and disability services to get them into a group home. And a lot of times group homes won't take them, or the individual doesn't want to go to a group home. They want to go to somewhere else. So we do have some, for us, there's some barriers that is equally as frustrating because, I live in Salem. My kids, well, my older daughter's in college, but my younger daughter still lives here. I see the same things that you do and our officers do as well. And so our mission is to try to mitigate those as much as we can. I think with 4 officers instead of 2, our hope is that when we look at those stats and we look at repeat camps, we see how long camps are remaining at a location. We see the number of referrals that we're providing to people, the number of referrals that people are accepting. We're hoping that those numbers, that the first numbers go down, like fewer camps, that they're the number we're not having to go back repeatedly, and that the number of referrals are going up. That's our hope. But that is a great question, and I don't know if I have a great answer. I think it's bigger than I know it's bigger than the police department, but we also recognize that we have a piece in that, want to take ownership of our piece.
I really appreciate DJ Vincent being here and a number of service providers. We need a count on our nonprofits who said they're taking on this missional work and then invite us to their luncheons and we fund it as a business community. And I would imagine Councillor Matthews may touch on this, but Jameson and I yesterday had the opportunity to meet with Councillor Brown, Dr. Irvin Brown, and we need a count on our nonprofits who said they're stepping into this field and they're going to take it on. We're going to fund them to step up and help us here. We need that help. But there's some mechanisms that the city can assist with as well. Commissioner.
I'd like to take my state on some of the issues with our jail. Our jail's open. We can't jail people for being homeless. We don't have a jail big enough. We gotta find a place that we can take them and move to. In fact, place to relocate them, and we can. Part of the kids are similar to Church Park. I think it's gonna be. As soon as they get caught shoplifting, trespassing, theft, they're gonna spend some time in jail in Polk County. Our doors are always open. Always work with the police, that great work with. Understanding the site release is not allowed in Polk County. There are certain cases that, I mean, if they have shopping carts, stuff, and 2 dogs, they just stole a bottle of beer or something, they're not gonna bring in Polk County. That takes 3 officers off the street. For that offense, everything else, you know, look at them. For being homeless, we have to find a place to relocate it. When they do, just push the envelope. Have to be a general law.
Okay, quick last question, yes.
Thank you, Christopher Lopez. I want to offer a thanks to Deputy Chief Aguilar and Lieutenant Diede. I've worked directly with your HST team, and I find them of the absolute highest caliber. I'm actually thankful and excited to see this team grow and excited to see the work that they're able to achieve. I'm a numbers guy, and some of the numbers that you shared today, I think I heard 328 referrals. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's 15–16% of the people that you're interacting with currently are being referred to services. It strikes me that there's opportunity there. Is that due to service provider bandwidth? Is that due to non-compliance of individuals? What can we do to get that number higher, to get those people into support and office?
Yeah, all of that. One of the metrics that we're going to do a much better job of tracking is, so right now we just track referrals. And so that could be like Lance talked about, that could be me saying, hey, Ideal Options is available and they have a place for you. Do you want to go? And they either accept it or not. But we don't track how many times do we refer to the park? How many times do we refer or take them to Nav Center? So one of the things that we're hoping to do is track those better so that when we come back, we can say, well, it was 328 referrals. 50 of them were to drug and alcohol addiction services, and the rest of them were to housing. I think that to answer your question, like how do we increase that? Some of that is going to be on the individuals and on us building trust with the individuals so that they know that when we offer a referral, that service is available and that they're going to be able to get in, that we're not going to run their name and arrest them on a warrant. Like we want to get them to the service that they want. So some of it's going to be on the individual to trust us enough to accept the services. Some of it's going to be like, do we have enough services available for them? Drug and alcohol treatment, especially the drug treatment, is generally, I find generally available. They're very open to us, but the shelters sometimes, there may not be a bed available. So, some of those barriers that we talked about, I think would be a barrier to getting those referrals up. And then I'll also point out that like the number of individuals that we contact, a lot of those are duplicate numbers. So we contact somebody at a camp, we have an interaction, we clean the camp, they move across the street. We ultimately end up contacting them at a later time. So some of our numbers are a little bit inflated just because we don't count like individuals because we don't track names. So we could have multiple contacts with people, multiple referrals. And then, like I said, we don't, we would provide referrals to everybody if we could, but we just have, there's a segment that either just, there's no resource that's available to them, or they just don't, or they aren't interested in a referral.
Peter?
Two representatives from the providers ever named the police in like, yeah, so
Do you ever what? Sorry. Oh, yeah.
is success rate accepted referral to service, is it increased to a representative from service?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's a great question, because part of that, when we talk about the 3-day posting, especially if it's a large camp, what we'll do is we'll post, but then our whole goal is to have outreach workers either through Salem Housing Authority, Church at the Park, Northwest Human Services, come out with us, or we'll tell them, hey, we're posting this camp. Please have your outreach workers go and really hit that camp hard and try to get as many people as you can either out, notify them that we're moving so that they're not traumatized when we show up and we're just grabbing all their stuff. So I don't know if we have an exact percentage of success, but I do feel that for us, it at least gives us a sense that we're doing something to try to help people prepare for the move. And maybe that's going to be the catalyst that, well, I either have to move or there's an option that I'm going to go ahead and take. So I don't have an exact number, but that's a good point. Thank you. That we do try to do that as much as we can.
Great questions. If we have time at the end, we'll take a few more and we can kind of open it up to the whole panel, but I do want to be respectful of our speakers that we have to come, and thank you, Debbie and Lance, very much for your presentations and being with us today. An organization that when we look at partners in our field of advocacy, think of Oregon Business and Industry, the Oregon State Chamber, but one you really need to watch the pulse of also is the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association. And a gentleman with a lot of history with this organization, having served in a volunteer capacity, certainly in some other duties within this organization, is our friend Greg Astley, who serves as their governmental affairs director. And so, Greg, would you help us understand kind of what ORLA is looking at right now, and a little bit maybe a preview of what businesses or restaurants and lodging are experiencing, and then what you guys have in the works?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I'm trying not to read too much into it this morning, but every time Jameson asks me to speak, the Salem Police Department is here up front. So I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, thanks, Dan.
But you'll walk out without handcuffs.
Guaranteed?
Absolutely.
Greg, I need you to guarantee this, because if you don't, this happens.
Well, this is all being recorded, so I'm safe. Well, good morning, everybody. Yes, we have a lot of headwinds in the business community here, and especially for the hospitality industry. And it kind of starts at the top. The government shutdown right now, obviously impacting a lot of federal workers. But in addition, what we're seeing now is potentially it's going to disrupt travel with the air traffic controllers. Airports are already starting to shut down some TSA stations. And all of that means that as we head into one of the busiest times of the year for travel, with the holidays coming up, it's going to impact people traveling, right? Especially long distances. And of course, that affects our hotels, motels, restaurants, lodging properties. And so we're very concerned about that. In addition, at the very top, we're talking about the tariffs, some of the impacts that those have had. One that hasn't gotten a lot of press lately, but one that's very concerning for our lodging members, is the tariff on furniture. Most places don't really think about that, but when you're staffing a hotel and you're, building something new and putting in a bunch of new beds and desks and chairs, a tariff on furniture is gonna impact you as well. The other one, obviously, is what we've been seeing a lot in the media lately, immigration and ICE, and the impact that that's having on our industry. So between some of the workers and in addition, some of the operators, especially for those in the minority community, a lot of folks are just concerned about leaving their homes and coming to work. And that's translating into obviously, staffing issues, or if they're the owner of the business, whether or not they can keep their doors open. So, when we talk about stuff at the state level, I think Representative Diehl could probably back me up on this, but this was a very dysfunctional legislative session. He's laughing, thank God. I have been doing this for over 25 years and have not had a more kind of dysfunctional, or in some ways for us anyway, it got very personal and acrimonious on the issue of the lodging tax. And I won't go into it with everybody here right now, but suffice it to say that there was some very passive aggressive comments that were made to our lobbyist in the building. It got very personal, like I said, and unfortunately just led to some very kind of strained relationships. And so we're still working on those issues, but the primary driver continues to be the number of rules and regulations that come out of the legislature. And I'm not blaming Representative Diehl.
No,
He's in the minority party and a strong voice for business. But I go back to a dinner that I had with, well, she was not governor then, but Tina Kotek running for governor. And then we had about 15 to 20 people sitting around a table. And she wanted to know from everybody kind of what were the challenges they were facing and kind of what they'd like to see. And at the time, egg prices were still astronomical. And so we had some issues around that. And again, just general rules and regulations. And I told her, I said, I'd actually like you to do nothing in the legislature this next session. Yes, that was not her response. She did not think that was funny. She said, well, we have to do things. Yes, obviously, there are certain things that have to be done. But the bottom line is every single session now, businesses are getting hit with more rules, more regulations. We barely have time to adopt the new ones before there's another set in front of us. And it just makes it very, very difficult to operate as a business in Oregon. We are not a business-friendly state. If you've seen the numbers from Oregon Business and Industry, Tom mentioned they're one of the strong partners for the chamber. We continue to slip down that list of places that you want to open or expand a business. We are just not a business-friendly state. And I know Representative Diehl is going to talk about it, but the gas tax is just another example. And so as we look at what's coming on the horizon, what we're trying to do really is just mitigate the damage. What can we do to make it a little bit easier for businesses in Oregon? And that's a challenge. It's tough, but I'll tell you, it takes folks like you stepping up and speaking out. As a professional who's in the building all the time or who goes to city council or county commission meetings, I'm headed to Cascade Locks tonight for a meeting on a meals tax up there. I'm the paid guy, right? I'm the guy who shows up and I have all the stories and I have all the numbers and I represent the industry. But it's the folks like you, when you show up, that have a huge impact on those elected officials. They want to hear from the people on the ground living this every day, how this impacts you, how this impacts your employees, your business. I can't share that with the same kind of passion that you can. And they'll ask you questions. They want to know. I've been encouraged. We've had some legislative meetings lately, one-on-one, to talk about some of the issues. And I've been pleasantly surprised to hear from some of the Democrat lawmakers that they really do want to hear from business more. Representative Daniel Wynn, who is a restaurant owner, he's an ORLA member. He and his wife Catherine own Bambuza Kitchen, and he is chair of economic development. And I'll get the name wrong, representative, but economic development and small business.
Small business,
yeah. So he is actually putting together several panels of business people and employees. And he wants to hear from them about how is business? What are the impacts that what's happening in the legislature having on your business? And specifically, when he reached out, he said, Greg, I really need to try to convince some of these colleagues of mine who don't have the experience in business that businesses are good, right? Businesses are good things. Senator Kate Lieber, who's co-chair of the Ways and Means Committee, a very, very powerful committee in the legislature, told me that she has stopped referring to businesses as businesses or companies or corporations. She is referring to them now as job creators in her language. It's a very important shift and one that I hope we see more of. Now, I'm sure any of us could probably stand up here for the whole hour and talk to you about all the issues that are going on in our respective silos, but I'm here, ORLA's here. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. We meet once a month with our Government Affairs Committee, once a week when we're in session to keep our members updated. We have action alerts and insiders and emails and all kinds of communication on the website. If you're interested, please come talk to me. I've got business cards, or Jameson and Tom have my information, but I'll cut it there. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Greg and Jason Grant do a great job in that industry, but understand there's a very real reason why we all partner together on a lot of these policies and what we're advocating for, because there's a common voice. Our restaurants, and I know Mayor Foy is here, past President Herron. I mean, this is real stuff, and our restaurants and our hoteliers and the industry is at a really time of crisis. And so their voice is so important, like the voice of all small businesses. For Greg Astley.
Scared y'all, or I did? God.
I know in a lot of communities, states, minimum wage continues to be pushed higher and higher. If a $420 minimum wage came to Oregon, how would that affect the industry? Or $30?
Well, 30 would be astronomical. They have that in LA now because of the Olympics that are coming. Hotels in Los Angeles are going to have to pay $30 an hour as their minimum wage starting in 2028, I think it is. Most restaurants and most lodging properties, quite honestly, are paying above minimum wage right now. There are very few places that are paying at the minimum wage. Most of them are above that. It's another issue that we continue to have to explain to some elected officials. There is one representative, I will not name names, but this person just refuses to believe that if you continue to increase the minimum wage, you will also need to increase your prices to make up for that. He just doesn't think that's how it works. And so I have a hard time explaining economics 101 to some people, but most restaurants, most hotels are paying above minimum wage right now. If it goes up, all it means is that that floor will continue to move up and those prices will continue to go up as well.
Is that Travis? No.
David?
It should.
Trying to get me to out it.
Is your association working on the general, I guess, illness and addiction problem on the streets in Portland and Salem? And I ask this because it's got to be affecting the restaurant and lodging industry. Speaking from personal experience, we used to go to Portland for the weekend, stay in a hotel, eat at the restaurants. We haven't done that in 5-6 years. And my wife doesn't even want to go to dinner in downtown Salem. Part of that is because she has some fears of the addicts walking the streets and the homeless on the streets at night.
Yeah. Well, as the deputy chief said, it's not an issue that any one entity can solve on its own. Yes, we are absolutely part of the conversation. We work with the police department up there, the city, the county. There's a program in downtown Portland called Clean and Safe. They have folks that go around and keep the streets clean and help homeless people to get into services and move on. In the downtown kind of hotel district area, we are actually raising money, $20 per room. Hotels are voluntarily giving that money to Clean and Safe to add a couple more officers to help with that. But it's an issue. So 2019 was kind of the peak for travel and tourism in Oregon. Obviously, then the pandemic happened and a lot of people forget, but travel was one of the first things to get hit. And so hotels suffered the most first, and then restaurants obviously got closed down several times. Back in 2022, the anticipation was that 2025 would be the year that we would get back to those 2019 numbers. Now it's been pushed out to 2028, and even that's a little squishy. It is hard to bring large conventions like the National Education Association that just came with 5,000 members and 30,000 room nights. it is hard to convince event planners to come to Portland and spend that money when our costs are higher and we have the reputational issues that we have. They're going to go to Austin, Nashville, and Denver, and Salt Lake City, and a bunch of other places. We are working with other entities on the issue, but it's going to take a lot. So absolutely. Bless you, Tom.
Thank you. We have time at the end. We can again circle any panelists. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to your state rep, Ed Diehl, who represents House District 17, for an update on an effort to repeal the transportation package that is still yet unsigned by our governor.
She's in no hurry to sign it, that's for sure. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'd like to talk real quickly about just building on what Greg's saying. You know, we have bipartisan support for business in the building. Daniel, when I was on vice chair of small business econ development with Daniel, I had to give that up recently because I want to be vice chair of healthcare. We have some issues to deal with big time on that front. But we also have really strong opposition. And you have to realize I'm serving with people who do not believe in private business. They do not believe in capitalism. We just have a rep that is just north of us here that just signed on with the Democrat Socialists of America. That's one more of them. Their stated goal is that the public owns the means of production, eliminate private ownership of means of production. They say they're going to do it through peaceful means, but it's completely opposite of how we built and grew this country and sustain an economy. I was at a healthcare committee or a healthcare forum just the other day in Portland, downtown Portland, speaking to a group of people. I swear I was the only capitalist in there, except for a couple guys at the end who thanked me for coming. And P.S. I'm a Republican, quietly. But there's antagonism toward even the idea of growing industry. So we have people who pay taxes to provide the services that they want. It's crazy. And that is reflected in the building. And that's the battle you face and I face. On the referendum, yes, we had an emergency session to pass an emergency tax for an agency that's in crisis. And the governor is dragging her feet to sign the bill. And the only reason to drag her feet to sign the bill is to deny us the time to gather the signatures. But I'll tell you what, we're going to do it anyway. So the referendum covers, it's not over the full bill. It covers 4 specific elements of the bill: the gas tax increase, the registration fee increases, the title fee increase, and the doubling of the statewide payroll transit tax. Those are the 4 items that we're bringing to the people for an up or down vote. We've done polling on this. 67% of those polled would outright repeal the bill that just passed. It's overwhelming. 87% of the people polled said, yes, the people should have a vote on this. Almost 9 out of 10 people agree with the idea of a referendum. And I don't care what party affiliation you are or where you come from on this, but one thing is you can't dispute. This was rammed through by the governor on a very partisan line, despite overwhelming public opposition to this legislation. 94% of those people that testified were opposed to the bill. And also I'd say this, just lay it out. Here's how the building works. She approached this knowing that the public didn't like it, but she strategically went and silenced influential lobby groups in the building, the ones that are loud and would spend money on a referendum or fighting this thing. She silenced them with certain pieces in this bill. What she wasn't counting on is that people were going to organize and come after it anyway. She didn't count on, she was ignoring the voice of the people, and she wasn't counting on a grassroots effort to rise up and fight this thing. So I'm co-chief petitioner on this referendum with Senator Bruce Starr and Jason Williams with Taxpayers Association of Oregon. My Oregon Freedom Coalition organization is also playing a key role in this. And I'll tell you where we're at right now. We have building a grassroots army. We have over 3,000 volunteers. I'm hoping that a significant percentage of them are seriously going to be engaged. We have 60 petition captains across the state. We have plans in place to get signs out to people, to get these petitions printed locally, to get them in their hands as quickly as possible when the governor signs it. Our deadline is November 12th. We're planning a Sign Across Oregon event on November 22nd, which is the Saturday. And our goal is to have petitions, circulators in every town and city in the state, as many locations as possible. You know, we have to get 78,000 signatures. Our target is 100,000 signatures. We have constitutionally 90 days to gather those signatures. The governor, because of also the Constitution and this overlap in time, she can cut that down in half. We're gonna have less than 40 days to gather these signatures. So this is a sprint, not a marathon. But if you figure if we have 2,000 of those volunteers, 50 signatures each, we could do this in a weekend. Why aren't we out in front of when the Ducks are playing USC on the 22nd? We could be at every one of those bus pickup locations all around that stadium. We can gather these signatures. We're going to be at DMVs. We've got chambers that are opening their doors and putting the petition in the chamber offices. We are building an army that's going to do this grassroots style, and we're pushing it really hard. It's not something that's been done here before, but I'm confident we're going to make it happen. But we also have accompanying that a few other things. We have some fueling stations want to have paid signature gatherers at their locations, and they're willing to pay for those. So we're setting that up. We also have looked at how for a referendum like this, that people will respond if I send them a mailer with a petition sheet and a returned envelope. They will respond. We're figuring if we send out 100,000 letters like that, we'll get 40,000 signatures. And with those letters, that when they come back, they're going to provide some donation to at least cover part of the cost of the letters. So our goal is to raise $500,000, 300,000 right now, another 200,000 as we move forward. But that will cover our volunteer costs for signage, postage, all that jazz. It'll cover this mailer to what we hope to be at least 100,000 people. And it will help cover the costs of the paid signature gatherers that we'll have at some fueling locations. So I have an appeal to you. We need people to volunteer to help with this. We need businesses to engage in this. We need financial support as well. And I've got some information on that here that I'd like to hand out if that's possible. But we're going to do this. And I'll tell you why this is important. This tax and fee package, the governor has already told us, it's just the beginning. It's a stopgap measure. More is coming. If we stop this now, we force a discussion to come back to the table and say, how do we make ODOT accountable? How do we reprioritize the funding in ODOT so it's going to where people want it to go? The number one priority is roads, maintenance, snowplows. That's the number one priority. But the legislature has restricted how that money can be used. For example, in 2017, when there were all these other gas tax increases that were put in with this promise to do projects that haven't transpired, 94% of that money couldn't go to maintenance, only 6%. We have tied the hands of ODOT on how they can use the money that they do raise. The legislature can act, and that's all we're asking the governor to do. Let's untie the hands. Let's reprioritize to prioritize maintenance, which is what people want, and make wise use of the money that you're already getting. Then we can have a discussion. Do we need to raise taxes? So this is a big deal, and it has long-term implications of how tax policy will be formed in this state. So I'm very excited about it. I hope that the chamber can rally around this. I spoke with the North Clackamas Chamber. They're very interested in this. I spoke to the Kaiser Chamber. They're very interested in this as well. And I also look for any support that you can provide. If you go to notaxor.com, that's where people can go to volunteer. That's where you can stay up to date on, what the status is. Where can I go sign the petition? And you can also provide donations there as well. So with that, I'll open it up to the questions. Do you want these fast out? Yeah.
When I inquired, there is no alternative presentation to this. Would have loved to have had the governor here and advocates here for you. And the response is the governor is going to sign this, and we don't have an issue until the signature by the governor has occurred.
I'm baffled at how they know that people don't want this. It's egregious that she's just thumbing her nose at the citizens that she represents. I'm blown away. This will show up on the November 2026 ballot. There's a chance that they might try and move this to another ballot, which would be, instead of thumbing their nose, would be a middle finger to Oregonians, in my opinion. We'll see if that happens. My hope is that what the right thing to do is, once these signatures are gathered, that bill cannot take effect, taxes cannot be raised. You say, hey, let's come back together. Let's figure out a solution that the Oregon people can accept, and get it done in the short session and move on. That would be the reasonable thing to do, and I hope that that's what happens. Sorry.
I want to be extremely clear. The Salem Chamber Board of Directors and our organization has not yet taken a position on this matter. And we would have loved to have shown you the advocate side of this. And I will repeat, there is not yet an advocate side mobilized because, again, the governor has not yet signed it. So they feel it improper to represent something that the governor has not yet signed on. I want to be extremely clear there. Okay, Representative Diehl, thank you so much for being here, sir.
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely.
it. Questions for Representative Diehl? Ed and Nick.
Sent back a thing, is it petition manager at gmail.com that you can, if you want to volunteer?
No, if you go to notaxor.com.
Petition manager, that will connect you to your local petition manager to follow up with.
Did that come from Taxpayers Association? Okay, that might be something that Jason Williams set up. We kind of have parallel efforts going on, but at the end of the day, they're all together. So if that came from taxpayers, I would trust it. But if you go to notaxor.com, you can directly sign up. You check a box that you want to volunteer. That's the preferred way to do it. Yeah, thank you.
Nick?
I'll make it quick, but so when it's on the ballot, is it just a one box, yes, it's supported, or no, or is it yes and no for each of those?
No, it'll be one vote. Yes, I want to raise my taxes, registration fees, and statewide payroll transit tax, or no. The referendum itself, the bill is like 54 pages long. The referendum is 2 pages.
So then the second thing that is, assuming people vote no, it doesn't pass, then does the governor have to go put in another bill, or can she sign off on the stuff that you guys like, let go to say, all right, this is okay, like the electric vehicle tax or whatever?
So
Does the bill have to be completely rebuilt?
no, what would happen is the remaining portions of that bill would still take effect on December 31st. It's just the line items that we have deleted from the legislation would go away. But the rest of the bill, there's some accountability things in there. The governor takes authority again over the hiring and firing of the ODOT director. There's some stuff in there on EVs, which needs to be cleaned up. But the general idea was to have EVs pay their fair share. But there's some problems with that legislation. It'll be changed, I'm sure, in the short session. There's some stuff in there too that the truckers have fought hard for about parity. All that stuff stays in there.
Jen,
Update us with chariots and where we're at on that. Diehl is going over because it's all meant to us as business folks here. So.
I'll have a chariots update to conclude our meeting today. There are no other questions. Again, if we have time at the end, we'll open it up to the whole field. It's my pleasure to introduce our city councilor for Ward 7, Ward 3 here in Salem, and that is Shane Matthews. Shane's going to go over a few topics with us, but I'd like to just last month kind of sounded a couple alarm bells of what is occurring at Salem City Council. And a few of you started watching, and I applaud you for that. In fact, a few of you started attending. Our organization is there at each and every one of those meetings. If not both Jameson and I, certainly Jameson, and I'm sitting at that desk in that office with that light on watching and about some other things while I listen. The behavior of our community is not acceptable. We have lost civility. All 9 of those individuals that are serving, our mayor and 8 city councilors, receive 0 compensation for their work. Further, they don't receive economic gains in their positions. And the suggestions that they are really troubling. They are, as often, assaulted by individuals in our community for doing what they feel is right. And by the way, categorically, this organization does not agree with every decision our city council makes. In fact, there are numbers that we wish were not going that way. But that does not allow us to then berate people and put people down and dehumanize people. These are incredible leaders who have stepped forward and put in their time and volunteer effort. And I want us to remember that, because if not them, who? And it is very challenging to imagine doing a volunteer job that for a counselor is 20 to 30 hours a week. And I am not referencing Mayor Hoy. I am referencing former mayors, including former Mayor Hoy, former Mayor Bennett, former Mayor Taylor, and former Mayor, I mean, I can go on and on. The mayor's role is 40 plus hours a week of 60. And we're giggling, but these are people running a normal life and trying to be productive also as business people or whatever their duties are outside of city council. We need to be better. And we need to start showing up as a business community and thanking them for this work and taking on some of these topics and maybe sharing a little bit of our opinions, but also remembering, thank you for doing this. Our city needs leadership. And we would chase people. If you were to catch the last few months of council and just play this over and over, and then go to somebody, would you like to run and do this? What an incredible dynamic that we're asking people to step up and raise their hands and be willing to volunteer to do this. In fact, Manny Martinez just did that and is going to be running in Ward 2. I preface that to just say, Shane, thank you. I thank you. This organization thanks you. And I would thank every one of those 9 counselors for what they're doing. regardless of their political positioning and the like. We just thank you for being willing to step up as volunteers because we are not doing that. So thank you for doing that. Shane, I turn it over to you.
Great. Well, thank you. Honestly, Tom, that was very generous, and on the appreciation is, I think every counselor, every mayor gets asked, "Oh, how's it going?" Right? And how are you handling it? And just generally, Tom's not wrong. The last few months have been a little bit of an onslaught, but generally, you know, when you get into this role, you don't realize how much time it truly does take. And if you want to do it well, it's just going to take more and more time. And so thank you guys for the recognition of that. And so it does mean a lot. It's tough to go this early in the morning after Diehl because he's so passionate about his things that I don't know that I can muster that much passion at 7 or 8 in the morning, but I'm gonna do my best here. So Jameson asked me to come speak on a couple different things, and I'll probably be past those. But one of them was this land use appeal limitation that's kind of been put on the city. And it's from a House bill, it's a Senate Bill 1537. And that Senate bill, like so many of the state's bills, are intended to be positive. Things like serial meeting laws. But in truth, like the Senate bill was intended to kind of increase the amount of housing that we're seeing and eliminate some of the barriers to it. I think it has some flaws. But one of the flaws I think that was unintended is what it's done in our city is how our current process works. If there's a land use type 2 application that goes in and there's a decision made either by the administrator, depending upon what it is. So like if it's a subdivision, which is probably the thing it affects most in this land or in this Senate bill and the restriction it has on the city. If the administrator makes a decision, which is city staff, and it's not ultimately what the developer feels like is appropriate or what the neighborhood association feels like is appropriate or a community member, the appeal body right now would be in that scenario, a planning commission. But if the council felt like it was something that they needed to deal with, they can pull that up and that appeal body can be the council, right? So we have the option to do what's called a call up. The benefit to it is that frankly, probably no one in this room knows who a planning commissioner is in our city or how they would contact them, or they don't have a city email. They don't have a city phone. They have no responsibility to you to make sure they are listening to you. You wouldn't know who to contact if you wanted to. So there's no way for the community, whether it be a neighborhood association, whether it be a developer, whether it be you as just a general person that's living in that neighborhood, there's no way for you to actually reach out to them and have any type of say in that development. And so that for me is a problem. And so when it was kind of identified that this is out of our hands, this is not a choice, the Senate bill says we cannot do call ups. So our current appeal process of being able to have someone appeal those type 2 land decisions and be able to go to your counselor and say, hey, this is why I'm appealing it. This is why I think it's important. You look at it and determine whether you think this is something the council should look at, or if it's something that the planning commission, who again is not well known by the general consumer or the general public, that's been taken away from us. And so at this moment, we're trying to figure out kind of a solution to that. And I think one of the solutions that I met with city staff yesterday, and they're not in opposition to this. And so I think it's going to work okay. We're just figuring out exactly how much it'll add to council's actual plate, is that on certain types of land or type 2 land use cases, the council will just automatically be the appeal body. So the planning commission sort of gets cut out altogether. It allows, again, for just that communal aspect where you have someone to be able to go to. We're still figuring out what that's going to do to our docket every single council meeting and whether it's going to be practical. It also still requires a full vote of the council. So the council has to agree to that too, that we are willing to be that appeal body. It's not traditionally our role. But I think it's important for the community. I think it's important for the developers. I think it's important for them to still be able to have someone that's elected that they put in this place to be able to say, that's the person that I go to, because we're supposed to be that link. The council is supposed to be your link to the city. And so this particular thing kind of takes that out of our plate. So I think there's a plan coming. Eventually, there'll likely be a motion made sometime in early spring to kind of adjust that, unless someone comes up with a better idea, which I'm completely open to. But that's kind of the solution I have for that. Somewhat of a narrow focus, but I think it'll be impactful kind of moving forward in behind the scenes ways that maybe we don't all realize. The other thing that I was here for, and again, I'm going to go into other things than this, but was the Buy Salem initiative. So this is something the council just approved. I'm extremely excited about it. I think it's been mentioned here by Greg that we're not a business-friendly state. Salem is tending to try to be a more business-friendly city. And so at this moment, what we've done is we've created a pilot program where city funds, which we receive from every taxpayer that lives in City Salem, including business owners, especially business owners, we're going to try to recycle those dollars back into the city when we're doing procurement. And so right now, the state, how this works is a lot of the things we buy, we utilize what's called a cooperative agreement. And almost everything we do has to have some sort of competitive bidding process, but we can utilize the state's bidding process to be able to purchase our products. So for instance, and we use this, I come from a hospital background. The hospital background kind of has a lean Kaizen focus. And so I've kind of used their model. And so their model is sort of this test of change is sort of your, proof of concept is sort of your first step. So back in August, the city started utilizing this proof of concept step, which was we targeted Ford vehicles specifically. And we said, okay, right now our cooperative state agreement, because the state contract says that we can go and we can buy through an out-of-town dealer immediately without having to go for any additional competitive bids. But because they've already done a competitive process at a state level, we assume that when we buy from them, we're getting the best pricing. But as a proof of concept, we said, okay, let's reach out to local providers and see if they can match or beat that price. They don't know the price. They're still bidding blindly. So they don't know the price that we're getting with the cooperative agreement. They're just bidding blindly as a local dealer. In almost every single instance they were asked to bid, they won the bid because they were either the same price or they were less. So that was our proof of concept. So that started happening in August. We've taken that proof of concept. Now we're doing a test to change, which is essentially over the next few months, we'll be doing this pilot program where we're expanding that not just to the Ford vehicles, we're expanding it to all parts of our procurement in our city. So anything that can be bid, anything we would have potentially purchased through that cooperative agreement, we should, and we will be reaching out to local providers that can provide an equal or better service. And ultimately, if their bid can come in at the same or lower price, there's no reason we shouldn't be purchasing from that provider. So I'm excited about it. I think it recycles those dollars back into the city, and I think it's what we should have been doing from the first place. And so the fact that we're kind of making some headway and trying to recycle those dollars here, I think it's going to be great. But time will tell. So again, it's a pilot program, so it kind of has to succeed for us to continue it. And so I'm very excited about it. I'm very hopeful for it, but time will tell. Some of the questions I've gotten in the past is how do we make sure that if my company is interested in bidding these government contracts, these city projects, how do I make sure I can do that? Oregon Buys already exists. If you're not part of it, that's for anything that's $100,000 or more, right? So if it's a project that's $100,000 plus, we have to go to Oregon Buys and do our own competitive process anyway. If it's less than $100,000 is where most of these contracts are going to be. And it's a little over, I kind of did some calculations last night based on some data we had from the procurement. It's a little over 50% of our procurement that we buy is going to be in this range. So this should impact a pretty large percentage from what I can see of actual opportunities. And so I talked to the city yesterday, and they are honestly still trying to figure out exactly how the process is going to work. Once they do, they're going to do a media release, and I'll make sure the chamber gets that to be able to send it out. But it sounds to me like at least the idea at this point is they're going to have a sign-up process where anyone that's interested in doing this kind of work or being one of the providers that we get bids from, you sign up into this form, you kind of say what services you offer, whether it be cleaning services, whether it be dealerships, whether it be, automotive services, whatever it might be, you sign up, and then that goes into a category search so that when we're purchasing as a city and we say, yeah, we're going to buy X product, we can just go to that category and say what businesses qualify in that category, send about a notice, letting them know whatever contact you've done, right? So if it's an email, whatever it is you provided, we send you out the notice saying you have the opportunity to bid on this, and you bid back, right? That's as simple as we can make it, from my opinion. And so they're still figuring out the process and building those tools, but I think in the future it's going to be a positive thing. So yeah, Buy Salem initiative. That's that aspect. Other things, and I want to touch on this because we kind of talked a little bit about the 2 homeless service officers and the SOS team and I don't think we talked much about the co-response model, but that was a Safe, Clean, Healthy Salem, which apparently is some branding that we stole from Portland that I wasn't aware of, which is apparently Safe, Clean Salem. So we have health happening here too. But generally, one of the things that wasn't mentioned yet is a $180,000 gift that we actually received to help hire those HST officers. And that gift came in partnership with the Salem Main Street Association and the Salem Chamber. And it might have not been appreciated quite as well as I had hoped during the meeting where we accepted that gift, but I do want to just call it out. Like, it is very much appreciated that this business community is investing, not because they have to, but because they're choosing to, into what the city is doing. And so very much appreciated. Thank you everyone for being a part of that, just by being a part of the chamber. And so, so as much as you appreciate us, I appreciate that. And I think the council as a whole appreciates that, because we did take the money. So, let's see here. One other thing I'll touch on real quick, and kind of the thing I'll be looking at anytime we start a program, anytime we do anything in the city, we should really be looking at where is our baseline and where are we trying to get to, right? And so I'm trying to gauge, and this is a little bit risky for me, but I'm trying to gauge for me, how can I determine whether or not my time on council is successful or not, right? And I'm utilizing some data we just got to be able to say, in the 3 years and 3 more months that I'm on council, what data point can I look at and say, yeah, I made a difference, or this council made a difference? And so I've kind of picked up on 3, and there's this new data that we got, if some of you may have seen it. So one of them is some polling results we got recently. So 59% of people right now feel like we're in the wrong direction. Now, I'll tell you, that sounds horrible, and it is. It's 100% horrible, but it is plateaued out from the last year that we did this actual polling, which is in counter to how it had been in the past, which is where it continued to rise in the amount of people that said we were moving in the right direction. 59% still not good enough for me, right? I don't want to be in a position where 59% of the city feels like the council and the city as a whole is moving in the wrong direction. That's not something I want. 2, historically, since we've been doing these polling, the number one thing that continues to rank as our top issue in Salem of why do people feel like we're moving in the wrong direction is homelessness. So 43% of people feel that homelessness is the top issue that we deal with in Salem, or that we have a problem with. And that's what's driving those numbers of saying that this is where why we're moving in the wrong direction. I ran on the idea of homelessness. Every other candidate, I think, ran on the idea of homelessness. I think that's been happening for multiple election cycles at the city level, the state level, federal level. I think it's happening at every level. And yet, are we making the progress that we're looking to? 43% of people would say we're not. That's also a measurement that I don't want that to be the narrative when I'm leaving council at some point. The last one, and this one's important for me. So 19% of people said that public safety was our top issue, right? That is up from previous data. But what's interesting to me is when I broke that down into what does that 19% think is the biggest problem in our public safety? 15% of them said that drugs was our top issue. 4% said that traffic enforcement was our biggest issue, but 15% of those people said that drugs was our top problem in Salem. And I don't disagree with that. So it's my opinion, and I've said it multiple times, drugs have a nexus into so many of the problems that we talk about in Salem. When we talk about homelessness, there's not a single homeless provider that will tell you there's not a lot of drugs in the homeless camps. We know that's true. Talk about theft. There's not a single person that'll tell you that drugs are not a part of that. When we talk about gang violence and our community reduction initiative, there's not a single person that won't tell you that there's a linkage with drugs. Not every one of these cases have drugs, but drugs is a clear nexus, or has a clear nexus to so many of the issues that we deal with in Salem. And so it's my hope that eventually, and sooner than later, we'll be able to have some sort of more aggressive drug enforcement on distribution specifically. There aren't a lot of attraction to going after possession, nor are there really any teeth in it, and it doesn't really seem to help that much anyway to go after possession. But if you can keep the drugs out of the community, if you can make it harder to get the drugs in the community, I just don't hear a lot of people in the community say, those poor drug dealers, we got to go easy on them. So when it just comes down to it, that is low-hanging fruit. We should be going after drug dealers as hard as we can. That should be where a lot of our priorities are sitting, in my opinion, because I think it has so much impact into these other areas. So you'll hear me continue to talk about it, and I'm hopeful that as we kind of go into budget season and everything else, that we'll be able to really dive some resources into drug enforcement. So that's it. That's what I got.
Councilor, we're there at the end of our time, and I know maybe there might be a couple quick question or two for Counselor Matthews. Is that there or are we good? I'd like to provide a little bit of clarity. There's a little bit of misunderstanding about the business community's donation of $180,000. It has been referenced that Main Street Association and the city were behind that. That is categorically correct. I want to be really clear. A very small group of investors approached myself and TJ Sullivan, and that group is led by Larry Tokarski with Mountain West Investments, who cares deeply for this community, and said, hey, the work that Mayor Julie Hoy is doing in the space of creating a better city is why we're stepping to the table. And it was a challenging debate to watch if you were in the private sector and the conversations. But I do want to provide clarity there that your membership dollars, neither your membership dollars nor Main Street's dollars went towards that effort. That was incredibly generous gift from a couple individuals in our community, specifically to an appreciation for the work Mayor Julie Hoy is doing in this space. And I'm glad that council came around and eventually, after much debate, accepted that money. Although it would be hard to understand and know when you read the Salem Reporter and every one article is attacking Mayor Hoy. It's hard to get other articles out, apparently, of the positive things that are going in this community, but I hope to see them quickly return from the Salem Reporter. I want to give a brief update on Chariots. As you may or may not know, Chariots, we presented in front of them in a work session. There's 6 organizations gathered together that are really troubled by the thought of $40 million per year placed exclusively on businesses in Salem and Kaiser within the UGB to remove $40 million of your ability to be great employers and take care of your employees and philanthropically give in this community. And asked to have a deep conversation and really a rooted conversation on, are these dollars needed? What are the services that we're looking at? Should dollars be achieved and the like? And I'm proud to say yesterday, through a lot of hours of work of our coalition, and by the way, very challenging to bring 6 organizations with a lot of different opinions together categorically for one document in response. But we provided back last night, we hit the send button of a proposal back to our partners at Chariots to ask to be at that table, to reset the table, reset the conversation and come together with them and have a comprehensive discussion about the needs of Chariots and looking into the future. And I'm sincerely hopeful because I know the work and the work in earnest on our side to come together as many organizations, and we wish to be at that table, and we hope we are invited to that table. We will get a response probably within the next 7 to 10 days from that organization. They rightfully need the time, and they're under the same meeting laws as city council and the like, and they need to come together probably to have discussions on our response letter. But I'm very hopeful that the Chariots and the 6 organizations can come to the table and have some of these thoughtful. I very much value the work that Chariots do. I think collectively all of us in this room do. And we need to really find out, what we're looking at and what these dollars would go for. And do we have the ability, our return on that investment? Number one, what is that return on the investment and what does it look like? And quite honestly, do we have the ability as a business community to afford to pay for what they're looking to do? So join me in that hope that we can get to that place and sit down and reset that table and have that conversation. We, of course, in real time, will make sure you as our members are aware of what's going on there, but we're hopeful that we can get some traction there and start those conversations very quickly with them. So with that, our next opportunity in this room to gather for this meeting will be on December 4th. I'd ask you, do I have a friend I should ask to be a little perverse and come with me at 7 in the morning to sit and hear about the topics going on in the community? The answer is yes. Invite a friend to come to this meeting. It is a benefit of your membership. This is not open to the general public. This is a true membership benefit. So if you're going to invite a friend, make sure they're a chamber member. And even if they aren't, let them know. We'd love to have them in the room. Unfortunately, they can't be there unless they're a member, but we've got Jackie Roche. Be happy to talk to them about that membership and help us grow there, because this is a healthy place for businesses to be, and we need businesses linking arm in arm right now. My last plug for you, and we'll be wrapping up right now, but is on Monday is our Forum Speaker Series luncheon. And today is our cutoff where we have to get Mike Herron and his terrific team over at the Convention Center, our numbers of who's going to be in attendance and the like. So if you were interested in attending that, 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Monday the 10th, and our superintendent, Andrea Castaneda, will be our keynote. We have great sponsors for that. I'd like to recognize Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions. Chris McLaren's here, Chad Diehl here from that organization for being our title sponsor all year long. And our sponsor this Monday, our monthly sponsor, is Salem Health and Salem Health Foundation. And we have brought back the Spirit of Salem Award. You're really going to dig what we're going to do on Monday. And that's always a treat each and every time. So thank you for being engaged with this organization. We appreciate your time today. Go be great out there in the world. Thank you to our panel of speakers.